Every organisation has to have a structure, large or small, private sector or public sector, local, national or multinational. There's always a need for the people in the business to know who's in charge, what their role is and who to turn to if there are any problems. All of this is achieved through structure or hierarchy. It is important to realise that different firms will be structured in different ways depending on their size, their culture, their activities and their history. First of all, size. A large multinational will have lots of branches and subdivisions, each having its own hierarchy. So, for example, one person may be head of the UK division of the organisation, so top of the UK hierarchy, but not top overall. Next, culture. A more autocratic business will tend to have a taller structure, whereas a more democratic business will tend to have a flatter structure. Next, activities, or what the business does. The nature of the business will influence the structure, so a more creative business will tend to have a need for a flatter structure as it is seen to encourage ideas to be created and developed, because people feel more equal. Last of all, history. Structures evolve and are difficult to reorganise. Therefore, roles important in the past may remain in a structure after the need for them has passed. The aim of this section is to consider whether traditional hierarchical structures remain relevant in modern businesses. Over time, successful organisations grow and as a result will tend to employ more people to cope with extra work. Over time, these roles may not remain vital, causing the structure to need reviewing as it no longer reflects what now suits today's markets. Hierarchical structures can become too tall with long chains of command, or individual departments can grow quickly, causing a manager's span of control to become too large. Each of these can cause poor communication and coordination, and if left unchecked, can be a cause of diseconomies of scale. Over recent years, many firms have delayered their organisational structures in an attempt to modernise their organisation structure. However, this has proved to be a controversial policy because it's not always seen as achieving its aims. To change a structure in this or a similar way is an important issue and has been a popular theme for exam questions in the past. Note that in your examination, you will need to apply your answer to the case study.
Welcome to Biz Today. I'm Hayley Fairclough. Local engineering firm Smith, Jones and Brown plc today announced the loss of up to 75 jobs as a way of improving efficiency and helping to aid communication within the organisation. A spokesman for the company said, "This is undoubtedly good news for the firm and our shareholders." Smith, Jones and Brown plc have grown rapidly over the past decade, but if they're to continue to compete in world markets, they must have a structure that works well. They'll be moving 2 layers of middle management, with the responsibility for these roles being passed on to others in the new, better structure. They hope to minimise the need for compulsory redundancies by seeking voluntary redundancies and natural wastage. Again, in the long run, they believe this will improve their business. Local community representatives and the firm's union representatives expressed real concerns over the impact of job losses on the local economy. They were also concerned over the loss of members' jobs having been announced with no real chance of consultation. OK, that's all today from me, Hayley Fairclough, on Biz Today.
The gains from delayering are improved communication because there are fewer layers in the hierarchy for messages to pass through, more responsibility, and as a result, better motivation of those who take on wider roles. Reduced costs. Obviously, if the overall staff numbers fall, the wage bill may be cut. Well, that sounds good for the company. What's the downside? Firstly, it causes staff to be made redundant. Okay, so this will incur short-term cost cutting, but possibly demotivate remaining staff. Next, the loss of knowledge held by those removed, usually experienced managers. This is referred to as a loss of corporate memory. Not sounding such a good idea now, eh? Losing staff could also affect customer relationships. What I mean by this is that redundant staff may have had key contacts with customers, which could be disrupted and lead to loss of sales. These points for and against could form the basis of an answer to a question for this topic. The answer must be developed in the context of the case study, and for a longer question, you'll be expected to make a judgment. For example, judge whether delayering is in the best interests of the firm at this stage. People are the most important resource for any business, but as a resource, it's one of the hardest to manage. And the worst part is that it's totally unpredictable because we can't take into account the impact of our emotions. How we're managed or how we manage others will have a major impact on business performance. Leadership is carried out by people at higher levels of the organisational hierarchy. The style of leadership has a major effect on the organisation. In your studies, you should be aware of a range of styles, including autocratic, paternalistic, consultative, and democratic. For each style of leadership, you need to be aware of what it is, its good and bad points, and under what circumstances it's best. It's too simple to state that one style is always good or always bad. In the exam, make sure you relate it to the situation in the case study. The following scenarios will help illustrate each style. For each, consider the good and bad aspects of using that particular style and what impact it will have on the people and the business. The decision made is deliberately simple to allow you to focus on the things you need to know.
Will someone shut the door?
You bit comfortable.
Well, you better go and shut the door, John, before you catch your death.
Oh, thanks for that.
That's okay.
Freezing in here. Didn't like to say.
Was a bit chilly. I left that open from earlier. Forgot about that. I'll tell you what, Philippa, why don't you go and make us all a brew so we can warm up properly?
Oh, thanks, Phil.
No problem. Do you both want tea?
Yes,
please.
Yeah. Listen, guys, I've just had a thought. I'm thinking about shutting the door because it's getting a bit nippy in here, but I want to hear your opinions on that actually first. So, anyone?
Well, yeah, no, I think great idea.
Yeah.
I think shutting the door is going to be a fantastic suggestion because I don't know about you, but I'm getting a bit
Yeah.
a little bit cold.
Yeah, well,
because of
that's
the
why
job.
I mentioned it actually, yeah, because
Yeah.
I was feeling the... Yep, sure, go for it.
I feel if we shut the door, we're going to get a bit hot in here and the computers are
a
going
good
to
point,
give off
isn't it?
warm
It's a
heat.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a good idea to shut the door really then?
Well, I mean, air conditioning. That's what it's there for. So if it gets a little
True.
hot,
Yeah.
slap on
We
the
can. Yeah.
aircon.
Costs.
Ah.
Good point.
Didn't
the
even
fan.
think about that.
The
Didn't
fan.
even think
Go-
about the
go
cost.
for the roof.
The fan, guys. The fan. Plug it in. Set it to number 3. You'll have air circulating.
Yeah. Well, number 3 is a good number actually. I've felt that breeze before. It's quite good.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I object to that because, as you can see, we have paper on our desks.
So-
And it's going to
yeah.
veil it.
I think it could work.
Be a good idea, I think, and maybe you know
Yeah.
we could do some etchings with the Etch a Sketch as well. You know,
Oh,
because
I love
of
Etch a
course,
Sketch.
if we do something that is
Fantastic.
bad, then what we can do is just wipe it. Can't
Shake
we?
it. Give it a
And it was
shake.
as if it never existed, so we don't have to embarrass
I'm
ourselves with a
saying
bad
that
idea.
is brilliant.
Because the thing.
So, should we close the door then?
I don't know. Not quite sure.
One of the most important things to consider is the impact of the decision style and the motivation of staff, as you've just seen. Remember, no one management style is right in every situation. Each can work well in the right environment. Motivation is a key topic in business studies and life in general. Just think how difficult it is to motivate yourself at times to study. Well, imagine being responsible for motivating a whole office of people and your success relying on how motivated they are. The 4 main motivation theorists are Frederick Taylor, Elton Mayo, Abraham Maslow, and Frederick Herzberg. You must know each of these people's work well enough to be able to explain what they said and to be able to relate it to a particular business problem. To help you do this, you should consider the following scenarios. Working on the production line at a large bakery, Jenny sits at the production line placing cherries on top of Bakewell tarts. She had a wage based partly on the minimum wage, plus a bonus of £10 for each day that her productivity rose above the set average, currently set at 350 tarts per day. The main competitor has a new mechanised production line. This has reduced production costs and the number of workers. Managers at Jenny's factory must respond to this threat, but maintain jobs. Their solution has been to increase the level of production before a bonus is paid to 500, but increase the bonus to £12. It's hoped that this will provide an incentive for faster production, reducing unit costs and improving competitiveness. Jenny has rarely met this new target level. How would the motivational theories explain Jenny's level of motivation? According to Taylor, money is the sole motivator at work and therefore the monetary aspects are the ones to focus on. If the bonus has increased, then this may be a good motivational tool. But how will she feel if she has little chance of actually reaching the bonus level? Other motivation theories focus on other aspects, but do recognise the importance of money to some extent. Mayo, for example, focused on teamwork and how people interact. We would need to know more about how Jenny interacts with her managers and colleagues to apply this theory. In Maslow's theory, it's likely that the uncertainty over Jenny's bonus payment may mean that the lower levels of the hierarchy has not been met, such as security and safety being the second level. Also, the low wage may even keep Jenny in level 1. Platts Limited is a well-established textile company north of Manchester. For many years, it has supported its workers by providing premises and facilities for sporting and leisure activities, such as five-a-side football for workers and their children. The subsidised bar is well used in the evenings with facilities for parties and hired out at low rates for workers. In recent times, the value of this facility to the business has been questioned as it is seen by some as an unnecessary cost to the business. How would the motivational theories explain the merits or otherwise of this strategy?
I can answer that.
Can you? Let's hear it.
Many businesses used this strategy in the past. It can really enhance team spirit as it encourages interaction between staff out of work, which can then help motivation when in work.
Hello.
Theories from Mayo, Herzberg and Maslow all emphasise the importance of this.
Yeah.
Social aspects are the third level on the hierarchy, and arguably the loyalty to the firm could get to the higher levels of the hierarchy with esteem needs being satisfied. Problem is, it's difficult for a firm to quantify the benefits of this scheme in monetary terms, and it's this that makes the decision particularly difficult. Is it worth the expense? Who knows, as we can't put a value on the gains. Now the boss is going to tell you a little bit about human resource management. Suppose I better go back to work.
Human resource management covers a wide range of areas. All are concerned with how firms manage the people they employ. These can be split into recruitment, selection, training and payment. A popular examination topic is workforce planning. We're going to look at this area using a case study. Billcom Limited is a medium-sized computer company based in Swindon. The managers worked in a traditional departmental structure based on functional areas such as finance, production, personnel, marketing and so forth. The one item on the agenda at the management meeting is the final presentation by the production manager, Steve Griffiths. He talks about a proposal to invest in a new production line. Okay, tea? Yep, everyone's sorted for tea. There's biscuits here. If anyone wants one, please help yourselves. Everyone got everything they need? Good, good, good.
Yeah.
Okay, Claire, meeting starts at 3:17 p.m. Okay, we're going to start with Steve, yeah? He's going to update us from last week, yeah?
Righto. Well, just to recap on the proposal then, we're all clear that the current production line is outdated,
Yeah.
especially in such a high-tech industry you know, that we're working in now. And so I think that investing in a brand new production line
Yeah.
is the way forward.
Yeah.
That's going to decrease the average unit costs, but it's going to increase the quality of the final product. Yeah, we're all, you know about the competition, the foreign competition there.
The French, yeah.
The French,
Yeah.
exactly. The Dutch are on our back. They've been on our backs for ages.
Yeah, they have been.
I mean, you know, their work's phenomenal. But I mean, we need to act now. We need to act fast. Okay, we've discussed the marketing and finance in last week's meeting,
Yes.
and that's all sorted. All those aspects are brilliant. So the only concern left now is the personnel aspect. So personnel manager here, Claire Sutcliffe,
Okay.
she's here, and you've been working on this, Claire, haven't you? So
Yep.
I'll pass over to Claire.
The key thing is that our staff are loyal to our business.
Yeah.
We have a low labour turnover and staff are experienced in their roles. Effectiveness in past investment in training, however, has been mixed. This is because some staff have skills which are simply out of date. In terms of numbers, the new production line will actually employ only 5 extra staff in total, it's making 65. The problem is the skills needed on the new system are not the same.
Right.
We have a major mismatch in the skills profile of the staff we currently have compared with what will be needed.
Right.
The decision I need from today's meeting is to decide how we will address this gap.
Right.
So I need, your comments from you too.
Yeah.
Number one,
Right.
we can retrain the existing staff. This, however, will be expensive and may disrupt some of the staff who may feel resistant in learning new techniques after working the same way for so long. The option 2 is we can replace the existing staff with staff who have experience and skills closely matching what we're looking for. This is not a zero cost option as we shall be paying redundancy pay, but this will be a little less than retraining.
Oh.
But the big gain is the new skills will be of high levels.
Oh, no, I'm going to have to interrupt there because I understand it's hard for workforce planning to meet the needs of personnel and production, but you have to remember that many of our staff have been very, very loyal to us and we have to think about their security. I'm sorry, I'm going to put my foot down there and think about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a fair point, but I don't think we can risk losing this business, this, especially this investment, just down to sentimentality, to be honest. It's just a business after all.
Is workforce planning more trouble than it's worth? Some of the problems are clear in the case study. It can highlight the need for difficult decisions. It can be time-consuming. Also, the accurate identification of all staff skills is very difficult. People may have potential that's not obvious. The gains from planning can be great. Knowledge of your staff is vital. Identifying skills gaps can solve a problem before it arises. It must be remembered that workforce planning is a plan and the future is unpredictable. In the case study, it's very hard to make the decision because, as with many aspects of HRM, you're comparing human aspects of business with the harsh financial aspects where emotions play little role. The efficiency of an organisation is vital. There are loads of different methods to measure efficiency. These vary from industry to industry. So, for example, labour productivity will be vital in a labour-intensive business. Maximising the use of machinery will be more important to efficiency in a capital-intensive firm. All measures of efficiency come down to gaining the greatest returns from the least inputs. Improving efficiency will help control costs and improve competitiveness. A key topic linked to efficiency is that of economies and diseconomies of scale. This is an area that students often seem to find difficult, so let's look at this further. Is bigger always better? It's simple for firms to see growth as a measure of success, to the point that they think a larger business will be better. Your local corner shop may be in the same market as Tesco and Sainsbury's, but the scale of their operations places them at a severe disadvantage. A bar of chocolate in a small shop is 45p, but the same product is priced at 35p in a larger shop. How can this happen when the costs of running such a large store must be so much greater? This kind of issue is mainly explained through economies of scale. Your local shop will be buying small quantities of products at a time and often buying them from wholesalers who add on their own profit margin. Whereas Tesco will be selling in enormous quantities. They have their own distribution network, allowing them to buy in bulk. Also, Tesco buy directly from the manufacturers. Because of this, they can negotiate special deals with manufacturers. In fact, even at a lower price, it's possible that the profit margin may be similar or greater than the smaller shop. You can see here that the cost of manufacturing the product is the same. Tesco can negotiate to lower the profit margin of the manufacturer, but the manufacturer will still make more profit in total as thousands of 5p are worth a lot more than a few 10p. This mutual benefit is the key to the bulk buying element of economies of scale. On top of this, the wholesaler's cut isn't paid by buying directly, meaning even though the price to the consumer may be 10p less, 35p, not 45p, the retailer's markup is actually larger. You must be able to explain economies of scale clearly and understand that the advantages are not just confined to bulk buying. Also, include the fact that larger operations can employ specialist managers and better, more efficient machinery, each of which can reduce unit costs. Remember that obviously total costs will be higher, so if big is better, what stops the biggest getting even bigger, and how do small firms still survive? Well, bigger firms are actually difficult to manage. Communication problems and issues with coordinating large numbers of staff will force up unit costs as efficiency falls in large firms. These are examples of diseconomies of scale. In practice, it's hard to avoid diseconomies of scale, but it's very difficult to know where the optimum output is. It's in part the results of diseconomies of scale that help small businesses to survive. There are lots of examples where the poor communication in large firms can lead to frustrations for consumers. Think about call centres. Small firms can, by concentrating on high quality and top-level service, get over the problems of cost disadvantages. Because, although cheaper, the larger chains can struggle to give advice due to the inexperienced nature of their employees who are simply shop workers. In response to this, the largest B&Q has hit back. It's deliberately recruited a larger proportion of older staff with some experience of trades to give advice. There are three types of stock: raw materials, partly finished products, and finished products. It's important to control the quantities of each carefully, as stock represents a valuable asset. If managed well, it'll lead to business success. Some businesses face seasonal demand and will need to build up levels of stock over time to cater for large demands in a small amount of time. For example, firework distributors. Traditionally, firms have used a system of buffer stock to control their stock. You'll be familiar with this through the interpretation of stock control diagrams. For many businesses, the key to stock control is to keep levels of stock as low as possible, and it is this that distinguishes the Japanese idea of just-in-time stock control, a key part of lean production. This is a production technique which is based on the benefits of a firm holding very low or even zero levels of stocks of components. Think about companies like Amazon. They hold no stock and they only order stock when they receive an order from a customer. It uses flow production, which is often integrated with enhanced teamwork and responsibility. It relies on the predictability of deliveries of stock. Associated closely with Japan in the 1950s and 1960s, but it's now more widely used. So the advantages and disadvantages of JIT are: in case studies, it's often easy to assume that the benefits of JIT are so clear that it must be good, especially when we think of the success of Japanese manufacturing in the 1950s to the 1980s. But be careful here. On January 17, 1995, the vulnerability of this system was brought home in dramatic fashion. The Kobe earthquake devastated the transport infrastructure of the Japanese industrial heartland. Firms across Japan not directly affected by the earthquake still had production halted within hours as vital supplies of stock failed to get through. A lack of buffer stock meant there was no safety net to protect against supply problems. Remember, the reliability of supplies is the key issue to assess in your judgment as to whether a JIT system is suited to the business being discussed. But whatever you decide, make sure you can come to a conclusion that you can explain and justify.